Vernacular Heritage Initiative. Now, this is a non-governmental and non-profit organization working to promote the identification, protection, and management of Nigeria's cultural heritage as a contribution to the expression of the world's cultural diversities through strategic services, and through strategic services, it provides access to conservation expertise and skills for all cultural heritage stewards. Dr. Obafemi Olukoya joins us in our Abuja studio. He is a project coordinator and director, Vernacular Heritage Initiative. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, one of the things, my colleague here, we were having a conversation, and the first thing he said, wait a minute, why did they have to call it vernacular? Please justify that for us in the first place. Because right now we can say that our language is the language, and English is the vernacular. Is that what you have in mind?
Oh, indeed. Well beyond that, right? So the concept of vernacular just go beyond just mere language. Vernacular means rootedness to a specific place, rootedness to a specific culture, rootedness to a specific geographical location. So it's a common assumption to assume it's only limited to language. So we have vernacular architecture, that is an architecture of a people within a given place, right? So architecture of a people, by a people, and for a people, right? So the concept of vernacular does go way beyond, of course, language. I know commonly it does seem as if it's vernacular, especially also growing up in Nigeria. You know, growing up, we used to, in school, they used to tell us, don't speak vernacular, that is, don't speak your mother's tongue in school, you should speak English. But I'm just trying to let you know that the concept of vernacular just does transcend language. Language is only one of the many strands of the notion of vernacular. Yes.
I know that there's an advocacy and an advancement you're pushing forward. And let's get to that, which has to do with the rainwater harvesting project. That's for the Kofia Hill settlement as part of your advancement. Maybe let's get straight to that and give us in detail exactly what you're trying to do with this and what it is exactly before we probe even further.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Like he rightly mentioned, our organization is a non-profit organization, so we are into this sort of humanitarian project, and of course through external fundings from diverse organizations. And for this specific rainwater harvesting project, it's been generously funded by Gedaenke Stiftung, right? And the idea of the rainwater harvesting project, just like the name suggests, is to kind of harvest water for this particular community who has been, of course, without water for several generations on the mountains in Plateau State, right? So the idea is to harvest, to take advantage of this particular rainy season to provide a storage system, which then they will have access to, of course, during the dry spell over there in this particular mountain. And we commissioned this particular project, of course, just on Monday, that is on the 25th of August. The project is also part of the broader framework project, which is targeted at the socio-economic revival of this particular community. And I think your guess is as good as mine. Most communities without water, it's always the women and the children, you know, that bear enormous burden of the absence, or let me say the scarcity of water. In this particular village, every drop, you know, is super important. Their animals die off during dry season. People have to migrate away from the community due to the absence of water. So as one of the objectives, many objectives of the broader project, which is targeted at the socio-economic revival of this community, the rainwater harvesting project started last year, and of course we were able to commission it in August, and now of course we'll be going forward with the monitoring till the beginning of the dry season.
So Gedaenke has partnered with, so I'm wondering what they are really all about. That's on one hand, and what are the kind of, in your pitching for this project, because we have to look at sustainability on one hand and look at the implementation in every other site that you may be propping to take part or take this project to. So what exactly is your interest in this? And the reason for this question sometimes has to do with partnership hesitancy as well as intent.
Yes, exactly. So, like I said, we are a domestic organization here in Nigeria. You know, many, among others, of our particular initiative is also to bring this sort of social impact projects to diverse communities. So we put together this idea. This is a particular community that we've been working with over the last 5 years. We did architectural restoration there. We did vocational training. We did capacity building. We also built a community center, which is also funded by Gedainkeo Stiftung, right? So our own duty basically is to try to identify such communities, you know, with this kind of lack. Then we put together, of course, an application. We approach diverse institutions. And in this particular instance, Gedainkeo Stiftung is the one that came through and, of course, has been able to sustain the funding to this particular community. Like I mentioned, the rainwater harvesting initiative is only one of the strands of a bigger, broader project, which is targeted at the socioeconomic revival of this particular community. The other objective, which we had also recently concluded, including training the youths in this particular community. We trained well over 50 people in this particular community in diverse vocational skills program. Not only limited to that, but we also use the opportunity to ensure that we develop approaches for the sustainability of threatened traditional skills like thatching, like weaving, like traditional hairdressing, and so forth and so on. So we also, you know, engaged in a vocational skill program for such traditional skills also. Besides that, we also provided a solar-powered grinding machine for this particular community. We did also farmers' capacity building, because among others, as you do know, food security is very pivotal to the sustainability of such settlements. And it was already obvious that the crop yields were beginning to, of course, lower over the years. So we did farmers' capacity building also. Then finally, like I mentioned, we constructed the community center where we had shops for the diverse vocational skills to operate, right? So in this community, you have to climb for more than 3 hours before you get to these people. So usually they will go to the lowland area just because they need to sew their clothes. They will go to the lowland area just because they need to barb, and so forth and so on. So ever since our vocational skills program, now they have a shop where now they can operate, and all of this access is now available to those people on the mountain. They do not have to trek 3 hours to the lowland area to have access to any of these services anymore. But of course, like I mentioned already, all thanks to the funding that we received from Gedainkeo Stiftung.
You know, I just yesterday, was it yesterday or even this morning, I saw an image, a story of an island between Kenya and Uganda that houses no more than just about 1,000 people, and they have just one everything, one police station, one toilet for 1,000 people, one this, one that, and they refuse to leave because the fish around that place is quite humongous. So why that came to mind is that you said that we have to climb 3 hours to get to where this place, these people live. 3 hours.
Yes. Yes. So I am very certain about 3 hours if you're a first-time climber, right? But some of us are already familiar with climbing this mountain. We can climb it in around 1 hour, 30 minutes, right? But if you're a first-time climber, I can assure you, once you climb for 5 minutes, you would have to rest. Then you continue again, you climb for some maybe 20 minutes, you stop. So between all of that, of course, you are going to expend 3 hours before you get there. But like I said, some of us are familiar with climbing this mountain. It's about 1 hour, 30 minutes. And it's not even an exaggeration. These people are far away.
What part of Nigeria, what part of Nigeria are you talking about?
I'm talking about Plateau State. Yeah, so this is a community in Kwampan local government area of Plateau State. Yes.
Well, I know that
the Mayang Mountain.
I know that there is a place in Oyo State, the suspended lake. To get to the suspended lake, the only suspended lake, natural suspended lake in the world, you climb something in the region of 45 minutes or thereabout, more or less. I don't know. I hope I got that number right. But to have to climb for 3 hours to a community.
Yes.
It has to take a lot of thinking before you embark on that kind of thing. Well, maybe Jeffrey will want to date one of these days. But the initiative, the initiative we just talked about, help us understand how does the infrastructure work? Can you explain the technology to us, in the technology behind it, what you call this simple system? How does it work?
Yes, so what we did when we did a feasibility study initially, before we embarked on this particular rainwater harvesting objective, was we conducted a feasibility study. Our initial idea was to actually dig a borehole, but we realized it's practically impossible. Even if we have sufficient and even enormous investments to dig a borehole, it had a possibility for environmental impact, because there is nearby on that mountain is a volcanic mountain, which means that place is very seismically very sensitive, right? So even if it's going to be very difficult to dig a borehole, the environmental impact in the long run is going to be catastrophic for this particular community. So we thought together after the feasibility study, what in fact can we do? Then we decided, okay, since they also have good access to rain, I mean the rainfall pattern in the particular place, in this particular community, is quite stable. So we decided, why not? Since they also have a church, they have a couple of buildings in the church, in the particular community with wide roof, besides their vernacular tiny houses, which is built with thatch roof. So we have some 3-4 buildings that is zinc. So we took advantage of the zinc, also considering the fact that the runoff coefficient for the wide span of the roof gives us an advantage to be able to take advantage of the rain. So we decided, of course, then we tie our water collection pipes all around the buildings, and then the water collection pipe leads to the storage tanks. Then from the storage tanks, it goes into the water collection point. One thing that is particularly unique about what we attempted to do here, or what we have done already, excuse me, is that we decided not to use anything mechanical. That is either through a pumping machine, or to use maybe a solar-powered pumping machine or whatever. No. What we did here is to rely exclusively on gravity. So the water comes from the roof into the storage tank. Then we sited the water collection points into a place that is a bit lower now from where the water collection point is, which means everything that we do have, all of the infrastructure that we do have here, operates naturally without anything mechanical. And the idea and the main reason behind this is, even while you are traveling to Plateau State, you might probably have noticed this, there's a lot of failed water projects all over the place. And this is simply due to over-reliance on mechanical means. By the time you put in place these pumping machines and all of that, it looks very nice the first year. Then the second year, it requires maintenance. The third year, it's completely broken. And then this sort of community, they do not even have the financial capacity to be able to update it. So this is why we decided that we're just going to leave everything to flow naturally, taking advantage of the gradients that we already have in this particular community. And beyond that, we also have an overhead tank, which is something that is quite interesting. We have an overhead tank in this particular community, which is serving the community center. And how the water gets into the overhead tank and gets into the building is also absolutely using natural gravity. So there's nothing mechanical in this particular place. So it's going to at least potentially require almost zero, let me say, maintenance cost on the part of these people to ensure long-term sustainability. So we put all of this into consideration, given the socioeconomic condition of these people. If the borehole breaks down, they do not even have the financial capacity to update it. So this is why we decided to use everything that's natural, taking advantage, again, like I mentioned, of the topography that's available to us in this particular place.
I'm just listening to you. Sound very brilliant. But so that we'll be absolutely ingenious of what you guys have been able to pull off. So for clarity and context, you're saying that you don't need any form of electricity, any of that, so that we're clear. And is it, you depend solely on rainwater to be able to provide this water, and how much rain it happens or in that area?
Yes, absolutely correct. So like I mentioned, we did a feasibility study. We had a clear report on the amount of rainfall per month in this particular community. So on the basis of this, together with the runoff coefficient of the span of the buildings that is available, we calculate also the per capita water need of each of the compounds in this particular community. Then we determined the number of sizes of tank and the total number of tanks that is going to be required for this infrastructure to carry them throughout the entire dry months. That is between December, usually, to sometimes in April. So what we have right there, if they will follow our fetching schedule, which is something we have also shown them during our commissioning event, if they are going to follow our fetching schedule between December to April each year, they would be absolutely fine. And this is not just limited to the community where we have the specific infrastructure, because we have more than 11 communities on this particular mountain. However, this particular project is only sited in Kofia settlement. So the neighboring community are also going to be beneficiaries of the water during the dry season. So we did a very careful calculation that if a particular compound has access to 2 of 25 liters water per week, it means multiplied by the total number of compounds in 3 different villages, it will, of course, sustain them throughout the entire dry month. So what we are seeing right now, of course, these are the water kegs that we distributed to them to ensure the rationing of the water such that they are able to, of course, to continue to have access to it throughout the entire 4 to 5 dry spell.
You know, I just enjoy everything you're saying, and I'm going to ask you about the issue about scaling this. How much are you thinking in that direction? Because especially your per capita component, which is quite brilliant, because you have to look at it needs assessment basis. You know, and it's commendable what you're doing, because I'm sure that when elections come, polling booths find themselves down to that place for people to vote.
Absolutely.
But for development, polling booths, development finds a way not to get there. So you are closing a big gap. How do you intend to scale this?
Yes. We do hope to take this way beyond only this community. The issue of water scarcity in the northern part of Nigeria, not limited to the northern part of Nigeria, really. I think you do agree with me that it's not limited to only this particular community. It's more or less a general problem around Nigeria. So what we are doing now is that hopefully, since now we commissioned this one, we are going to monitor it effectively till, of course, the next raining season. Once we are sure that everything that we have put in place works exactly the way we have planned it, we have the intention, of course, now to take this elsewhere. Hopefully, we'll be able to get governmental support at this point, and hopefully, maybe we also continue to approach some of our potential funders out there who will be able to see this as a basis of course, supporting us to take this to different other communities in different parts of Nigeria that has a similar problem.
Well, Dr. Olukoya, this is, I don't even know how to put this, but as Jeffrey has said, it's too commendable to ignore, and we can only hope that be the federal, be the state government, or even the House of Assembly in the state would see this and be able to embrace it as well, and as you said, and as Jerry asked, scale it all across the state, and maybe some other people will be able to take it up from there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Obafemi Olukoya is Project Coordinator and Director, Vernacular Heritage Initiative, VHI. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. And also, lastly, I just like also to thank, of course, once again, the founder of this project, Gedainke Stiftung. Without them, of course, none of this could have been possible. So thank you very much for your time, and yes.